First tonight on Our News Live at 7, police are still searching for the suspects responsible for shooting 4 people at a Super Bowl party Sunday night. Plus, our Jasmine Brown is live at Bahamas as the resort gets set to host regional leaders for CARICOM this week. And new opportunities are hatching on Grand Bahama, a step to greater food security. And then in our news at 7:30, the men who were allegedly assaulted on a barbershop camera described the face-off with immigration officers. Our news live at 7 starts now.
The shocking
Welcome to our news live at 7. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Kendino Knowles. A Super Bowl party ending in violence last night with 2 gunmen opening fire on a crowd of people, leaving 4 partygoers injured. Natalia Hall, who spoke with investigators about the tragic incident, gets us started tonight.
The shocking quadruple shooting happening in the Gambier Village community, leaving 4 men with gunshot injuries. 1 is listed in serious condition, and the other 3 men are listed as stable. Press Liaison Officer Chief Superintendent Christine Skippings providing more details on the incident.
We had 2 males who exited a small vehicle and they opened fire on a group of people that were actually at the event. Let me say that they were actually targeting a specific individual.
The press officer had this appeal for residents.
You know exactly who have weapons. If you don't partner with your law enforcement agencies, these type of situations will continue to occur. You have to partner with us. As a citizen of this country, you have an obligation to ensure that it's safe along with the Royal Bahamas Police Force.
As for business owners, Skippings had this word of advice.
You have licenses. Those licenses are specific. It speaks to what you can have at your business establishment and what you shouldn't. Our organization is going to take a zero tolerance approach.
Now, this is not the first incident in the capital where people who were not the intended targets were shot. The chief superintendent telling residents to always know who they are inviting to their property.
You can't just take somebody at face value. Know the friends of your children and know their friends. Because if you don't, you could very well find yourself in a situation where you're innocently hurt because of the actions of someone else.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Natalia Hall.
All right, meanwhile, a police hunt continuing tonight for the man responsible for the country's latest homicide. The incident happening on February 6th when police say the victim was attacked and stabbed by a man in the Zion Boulevard area. The victim was taken to hospital but died yesterday. Anyone with information on this is asked to call 911, 919 or Crime Stoppers at 328-TIPS. And a 56-year-old man behind bars tonight after being accused of molesting and raping his 10-year-old grandniece. The man, who has not been named to protect the alleged victim's identity, facing charges of indecent assault, unlawful sexual intercourse with a dependent, and attempted unlawful sexual intercourse with a dependent. Prosecutors allege the man indecently assaulted the child from February 2022 up to this past January. He's also accused of raping the minor in January and again on February 2nd. He's also accused of attempting to have sex with a girl between December 2022 and January this year. He wasn't asked to enter pleas to the charges and was denied bail. He's expected back in court on April 18th. And now to the highly anticipated meeting of CARICOM leaders this week. In just a few days, hundreds of leaders from across the world will attend the 44th Caribbean Heads of Government meeting. The hotel hosting the larger-than-life delegation is Bahamas. Joining us now is Jasmine Brown, who spoke to Senior Vice President of Government Affairs, Robert Sands, about the months of preparations ahead of the meeting. Jasmine?
That's right, Kendino. I spoke to the hotel executive who said a lot went into making this all happen, from added security measures to the work you see going on just behind me.
This planning has been going on for some 6 months now, and we're getting to the end of that planning stage and now moving into the execution. This is also a Herculean effort in terms of ensuring the safety and security of the individuals here.
Those security measures have been beefed up as police investigate death threats that were made against Prime Minister Philip Davis nearly 2 weeks ago, and also a planned protest by the Coalition of Independents, who have been vocal about immigration issues. Sands says they've taken extra steps to make sure the meetings are not only productive, but also safe. And that's just about all he would say.
If I express with you the security arrangements, I will be defeating the whole purpose of it. I can only assure you that the government is taking this very seriously, and the highest form of security will be in place.
As for the other preparations, the Bahamas executive says it's taken a lot of teamwork and multi-agency collaborations. Sands also addressing how the meetings will impact daily operations at the hotel.
This conference is also taking at a time when Bahamas tourism is at a very high level. Therefore, the occupancy level at this particular property will also be at perhaps its peak during this period of time. But we have committed the human resources to participate and partner with government. We have had multiple meetings in the execution of this event, and I am very satisfied that it will be a total success as far as we are concerned.
Now, as I said earlier, there is a lot of work going on here, as a lot of the day sessions will happen here at Bahamas on Thursday and Friday, but there will be an official opening ceremony at the Atlantis Resort on Wednesday night. Back to you, Kendino.
All right, thanks a lot. Our Jasmine Brown reporting for us live tonight from Bahamas on Cable Beach. Thanks a lot, Jasmine. Meanwhile, Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell says every member of Parliament has access to 10 invitations for constituents interested in attending some of this week's CARICOM events. Mitchell says he had plans to share details about the invitation in Parliament last Wednesday, but says he couldn't because of chants from the official opposition.
I didn't get to announce this in the House because some people were banging on the desk, so they couldn't hear. So I'm going to say it now. Each member of Parliament has 10 invitations open to them. So they should contact the Cabinet Office or the Office of the Prime Minister for the delivery of those invitations to just give to their constituents who'd like to attend the various public functions like the state reception and the opening on Wednesday evening.
All right, now the opening ceremonies for CARICOM is scheduled for Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. at the Atlantis Resort. It's time now for your first look at temperatures. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by in the Weather Center. Greg, and I think we're looking at 70 degrees. We're still hovering in the 70s.
You haven't been outside just now. It is chilly.
I know, this morning especially.
Yeah,
had to go back and grab a jacket.
We had a pretty nice day. There's a front that's pushed down to the south. We'll show you that in our satellite. But nice cool air mass is with us. That should be us through at least tomorrow, and then we start to warm back up by the middle of the week. But yeah, all right. It's chilly outside.
Yeah, for sure.
70 degrees, breezy and cool. The winds out of the north-northwest. That's bringing in that chilly air mass. 68 is your field-slight temperature. We will continue to see those temperatures falling off a little later on this evening. Taking a look at temperatures around the islands tonight, it is a cool 66 in Freeport, 70 over in Marsh Harbor. We have 72 in Nilestown, Bimini, 69 in Great Harbor Key. We pick up 69 in Nicholstown, Andros as well. Over in Governor's Harbor, 71, and as I mentioned here in the capital, we dropped just a degree just now, 70 degrees, 72 in Kemps Bay as well as in Arthurstown, Cat Island, Coburn Town, San Salvador, 71, 73, and 75 in, 73 in Georgetown, 75 in Dedminski. This is basically where that cooler air mass is, and further south where the front is hanging out, temperatures a little warmer in the mid-70s to the upper 70s, 76 in Duncantown, Ragged Island, Colonel Cricket Island, Delectable Bay, 77, also in Abrams Bay, 77 there. Matthewtown, Inagua, 78, and our neighbors to the south, the Turks and Caicos Islands, you are 78 at this hour. Taking a look at our satellite, weakening frontal boundary well down towards the south that moves through the northwest and central Bahamas yesterday and today. Nice cool air mass is building in for us across the islands. That's a high pressure system, courtesy of a high pressure system that's in the Gulf of Mexico. It's actually wrapping those winds around, bringing that cool air mass from across the United States. We will continue to see this trend throughout the night and into tomorrow. So tomorrow being Valentine's Day should be what we call snuggle up weather. So you guys and you ladies, make sure you enjoy it for tomorrow. That's your first check on weather. Stick with us. Look at your extended forecast. It's still to come.
Still to come on our news, are you celebrating Valentine's Day this year? We asked some New Providence residents how they feel about the Day of Love. But first, a Grand Bahama farm steps up to fill a food security gap. We'll tell you which basket they're putting their eggs in. Plus, free HIV testing for couples taking the step to know their status. It's all coming up when Our News returns. $1 billion is spent on food imports annually. It's something Berkshire Bahamas Farms is looking to slash. While the farm currently produces some of the highest quality pork, the company is now expanding into egg production. Megan Shepard has more on what this means for us as the cost of the hot commodity continues to rise.
This segment of the news is brought to you by H.G. Christie in Grand Bahama, celebrating over 100 years of service in the Bahamas.
Grand Bahama-based Berkshire Bahamas Farms provides high-quality pork throughout the country, and now its egg production business is hatching with the importation of 2,000 chicks. Managing Director Terrence Roberts says this addition not only keeps money in the local economy, but the quality of eggs is also superior.
When you even think about the import process, if an egg is laid on a farm, let's say somewhere in the United States, it has to then be packaged, processed, shipped, stored, get here, go through whatever inspection process, and then onto the shelves. And if it's on the shelf for a week or so, I mean, how fresh is that? But when you can say, okay, well, let's try an experience where we can just drive a few minutes down the road, stop by a local farm, buy a product. And also when you think about the local economy, that's where the money stays at home.
Now you may recall that another farm located in Abaco lost thousands of chicks during an importation exercise. Robert says as a novice, this incident gave him the extra push to travel with his new chicks.
I thought to go with a courier service, but then I said, you know what, you spend that kind of money on 2,000 birds, it's a business investment, so you go ahead, you hop on the charter and bring them back.
Robert says the goal is to produce at least 1,000 eggs per day. And just when will these chicks begin laying eggs?
A chicken, depending on the breed, can take between 18 to 24 weeks before they reach that maturation of laying an egg.
Robert also says they are big on education. If you're interested in purchasing the free-range eggs, unfortunately there may be limited quantities.
We really want to be at a point where we're able to meet a demand for a larger market, so more on the hotel and restaurant side, because that's a sure thing if you have a contract where you're getting that amount of eggs out. Of course, the other consumers can get from us.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
All right, thanks a lot, Megan. And speaking of the cost of eggs, the issue of food security is one of the top priorities on the agenda for this week's upcoming CARICOM meeting. Prime Minister Philip Davis will spearhead these meetings as CARICOM chairman. Here's what he had to say on the issue.
We have an aggressive plan to move towards more investment in agriculture. We have set aside about $100 million. Our first initiative will be what he calls the egg project. We hope to launch very soon. It is important, particularly recognizing what external shocks and forces could mean to a country like ours that's consumptive, that we now turn into looking to how we can feed ourselves. So there's a priority in our agenda to expand our agricultural initiatives.
Davis says government hopes Bahamians will take a greater interest in the agriculture industry.
It appears that Bahamian people in and of itself is not yet attracted to getting into business, so we're going to lead by example and try to move into that area and bring people along and hopefully be able to bring them along and then turn them loose to go on their own in that industry.
Your relationship status isn't the only thing you may want to know ahead of Valentine's Day. Today, the Bahamas National AIDS Program stressing the importance of knowing you and your partner's HIV status at their annual couples testing initiative. Prevention Education Officer at the National AIDS Program, Keith Kemp, says more than 100 couples were tested at their last event, and they're hoping to surpass those numbers with today's event.
Every Valentine's week, we do a couples HIV testing to encourage persons that come to be tested as a couple to know their HIV status, as well as to get information on how to protect themselves and how to have a discussion with your partner about HIV, about keeping safe, about past sexual partners, and so forth and so on. What people don't know is when you sleep with someone, you don't just sleep with them, but you sleep with everyone they slept with too. And it's so important for you to have a discussion with a partner, especially a new partner, about HIV, about STI, and come out and get tested so you know each other's status.
Kemp is encouraging Bahamians to take advantage of the free confidential testing, not only today, but year-round.
It's important that every single person throughout the Commonwealth of Bahamas know their HIV status. Testing is free, treatment is free, care and support is free, and so the access to this information is so important. And the Bahamas National AIDS Program, we don't just do it in-house, we come into the community. And so we believe in taking testing into the community where the people are at to make sure everyone has access to the free care we give to the Bahamas National AIDS Program.
All right, well, it's one of the busiest thoroughfares in New Providence, and if you travel the road often, then you know that the ride has gotten a lot smoother in the past week or so. We're talking about Gladstone Road, and it's currently undergoing a transformation. In tonight's Work in Progress segment, we learn about the latest and its much needed upgrade. Here's Jamila Mizik.
If you're driving along Gladstone Road, you should feel a noticeable difference in your commute. That's because work has been done to transform the once bumpy and pothole-filled roadway to a much smoother ride. General Manager at Bahamas, Ryan Ramming.
What you see here is approximately 2.5 miles of road that Bahamas has just recently resurfaced. And primarily it was done to improve the ride quality for the motorists.
And of course, with major roadworks comes the need for traffic management.
Motorists, they don't like to be inconvenienced. So it's a matter of planning, sections of roadway and a traffic management to parallel the section of roadway that you deal with. So what we had to do was take it in sections. We initially started out with approximately 1,000 foot of road beginning at the Rubis gas station at the northern end. And that was done, that small little bit was done to get a feel on the volume of traffic and how we would deal with that section of roadway based on the entire length of roadway.
Reporting for Work in Progress for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
When our news comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world as gang members in Haiti target churchgoers, plus how some Bahamians are planning to spend their Valentine's Day. And a 1956 declaration protects 22 miles of land and sea in the Exumas. We've got the details when our news returns. This is our news. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. U.S. officials are under pressure to explain more about a series of objects shot out of the sky. An object downed yesterday over Michigan was the fourth this month. The first was a suspected spy balloon from China. It is still not clear what the three most recent objects to be shot down over North America were. The White House says they posed a threat to commercial flights and were down out of an abundance of caution.
Even though we had no indications that any of these three objects were surveilling, we couldn't rule that out. And so you want to err on the side of safety here in terms of protecting our national security interests, and the fact that these objects could have and likely did at some point in their path transit over potential military sites of ours or sensitive sites. So again, out of an abundance of caution for those two reasons, the president, with the recommendation of his military leaders, directed them to be taken down.
Meanwhile, China's foreign ministry says the U.S. has flown balloons into its airspace more than 10 times in the past year. The announcement comes after the U.S., as you just heard, shot down a suspected spy balloon over its airspace on February 4th. Relations between the two countries have since deteriorated. Beijing Foreign Ministry spokesman Wenbin Wang said on Monday the U.S. had made many airspace breaches. Barbados-born pop and R&B superstar Rihanna made a grand return to the stage on Sunday, floating high above the Super Bowl field, thrilling the crowd with a fast-paced medley of her hits and revealing that she is pregnant with her second child. It was the 34-year-old Grammy winner's first stage performance in 5 years. She concluded her Super Bowl set with diamonds as fireworks lit up the sky around the stadium. Her last album, Auntie, was released in 2016. Rihanna joins a list of music luminaries who have performed at the Super Bowl, including Lady Gaga, Beyonce, Prince, Madonna, and the Rolling Stones. Meanwhile, local media reporting that gang members in Haiti have kidnapped 3 worshippers as they left a church in the capital Port-au-Prince after attending Sunday Mass. Reports say the kidnappers are demanding high sums of money as ransom. The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights has described the situation as a living nightmare. A new UN report released last week highlights how gang violence has sharply increased in a neighborhood on the outskirts of its capital, Port-au-Prince, called Brooklyn. Haiti was plunged into lawlessness following the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse in July 2021. And finally, officials say more than 5,000 pregnant Russian women have entered Argentina in recent months, including 33 on a single flight on Thursday. The National Migration Agency says the latest arrivals were all in the final weeks of pregnancy. Officials say the Russian women who had initially claimed they were visiting Argentina as tourists admitted to wanting their children to have Argentine citizenship because it gave more freedom than a Russian passport. The number of arrivals has increased recently, which local media suggests is a result of the war in Ukraine. Still to come in our news, today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was February 13th and the 1887 dedication of St. Francis Xavier Cathedral. Plus, Greg is back with your extended weather forecast. And then in our news at 7:30, Tropical Gardens residents left shaken up after a shooting leaves 4 people injured. That's coming up when our news continues. Welcome back to our news. It's time now to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was February 13th, including the birthdays of 3 Olympic athletes. Take a look. On this day in Bahamian history, in 1887, St. Francis Xavier Cathedral in Nassau was dedicated by Archbishop Michael Augustine Corrigan of New York. The cathedral held its first Mass 3 months earlier on November 7th in 1886. Then in 1956, Governor Dan Ranfurly, born Thomas Daniel Knox, confirmed that 22 miles of the Exuma Island chain had been set aside as a protected area. The area would become part of the Exuma Keys Land and Sea Park when it was established in 1958. It's the world's first protected area of its kind and is administered by Bahamas National Trust. Then 2 years later, Eldise Clark was born. She was part of the Bahamian team that won the silver medal in the 1996 Olympics 4x100-meter relay. She also ran in the preliminary rounds in the 2000 Olympics 4x100 meters relay in Sydney. That would later get her the gold medal when the Bahamian team won the final, earning them the title the Golden Girls. Then in 1972, sprinter Andrew Tynes was born. Tynes is a retired multi-medal winning track and field athlete who specialized in the 100 meters, 200 meters, and the 400-meter relay. Tynes represented the Bahamas in the Olympic Games, World Championships, Pan American Games, Commonwealth Games, Central American and Caribbean Games, and the Carifta Games. Then, February 13th, 1989, another Olympic medalist, Demetrius Rashad Pinder, was born in Freeport. In 2012, he was a member of the men's 1,600-meter relay team that won the gold medal at the 30th Olympic Games in London. After their win, the team was dubbed the Golden Knights. Pinder also won a bronze medal in the 1,600-meter relay at the 2016 Olympic Games in Brazil. All right, we are now hours away from Valentine's Day, and for some, love is in the air. Our Brittany McDermott was out and about gauging the sentiment of residents, asking how they're feeling heading into the Day of Love, and actually got some to share about their plans.
We took to the streets to see how Bahamians plan on spending the Day of Love, but it seems some residents aren't all that enthusiastic about it. We asked these women how they will spend February 14th.
Every Valentine's Day single, my mother toast to me every year.
Nothing at all.
Do you usually celebrate Valentine's Day?
Not really, but if it comes along, then sure. But it's nothing.
But not everyone is of the same view. This man tells us he has plans for his special someone.
Well, basically, it's just bringing in some gift, flowers, and all of those things for the ladies, is what I'm saying. So that's basically it.
Is it something that you
with
celebrate
chocolate?
every year?
Yeah, man, with chocolate and all of these things, you know what I'm saying?
Then there are these residents who say they will be spending their Valentine's Day a little differently.
My wife and I, we plan on spending it with our after-school kids club at our church. Just doing some crafts, eating some red food, like different things that we're gonna make, cookies in shapes of hearts and stuff like that, just to spend it with the kids that we work with.
The same as always. Sit home in my house by myself and enjoy it. Read, pray, and be in church.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
All right, thanks for that, Berthany. And to watch that again and for all of today's top stories, you can visit ournews.bs. That's going to do it for us in News at 7. Joining us now, Atalia Hall with the latest headlines. Atalia?
Yes, Ken, the eve of Love Day. Any plans?
I got to ask you.
No, the question is on you.
We're both working, right?
Yeah, we're working. So
hey.
We'll be here celebrating Love Day. Well, Ken, thanks so much. Well, we've got the latest on that quadruple shooting as residents react, and the $1 million cocaine fine on Bimini leading to the arrest of 3 suspects. New tonight on Our News Live at 7:30. The man caught on camera in an alleged assault in a barbershop described the confrontation by immigration officers. But first, Tropical Gardens residents rocked after a Sunday night shooting sends 4 people to hospital. And 2 men and 1 woman arrested in a $1 million cocaine fine. Plus, world leaders joined the list of regional leaders attending this week's CARICOM meeting. Our News Live at 7:30 starts in a moment. Welcome to our news and thank you for joining us. I'm Atalia Hall. Some of the top world leaders will descend on our shores in just a matter of days as the Bahamas hosts the 44th Caribbean Heads of Government meeting. We are following this as heightened security and preparations ahead of this year's meeting are underway. But first, police are looking for 2 men they believe are responsible for shooting 4 men last night in Tropical Gardens. Police say shortly before 11, 2 masked men, both armed with handguns, exited a small blue vehicle and discharged gunshots in the direction of the men who were in front of a home. The victims were all taken to hospital via EMS personnel and private vehicle. We canvassed the area this afternoon, and this resident says she is concerned with the growing number of shootings in the area.
I am very concerned about my safety. In particular, in this area, we do have a lot of single parents, and so we had a surge in crime last year, and everyone was fearful for their life. It's becoming very concerning because this is, like you said, relatively a very quiet neighborhood. So we're very concerned as to what is taking place here.
This resident says he was at home around the time the shots went off, but does not feel threatened.
This is the second time prior to the first incident that just had a call in the same area. I suppose the sounding like the volume of the shots is in the same area. So yeah, it was about a dozen shots. The first incident that was a couple days ago, that was about 4 or 5 shots. But that is just a location that gathers certain people on a Sunday. So whoa, beef up the security there on a Sunday and be present and known with your guns as well. I'm sorry to say it like that, because they got their guns. So if you're not present there on Sundays, other days through the week it's fine. It's very safe tourists, everybody getting on to normalcy. But that's an event that's been happening that they host or have. And yeah, there's a couple bad boys. I'm sorry, a couple bad boys.
All right, well, 2 men and a woman are in police custody after they were found in possession of 96 kilos of suspected cocaine on Sunday. Preliminary reports reveal that shortly after 10 a.m., Allentown Police Station officers, along with Defense Force officers, conducted a search of a boat at the Cat Key Marina where they found the drugs. The cocaine has an estimated street value of $1 million. A man was denied bail after being accused of raping a woman at a park. Prosecutors say 32-year-old Sadell Pierre sexually assaulted a 41-year-old woman at the Flamingo Gardens Park. The incident allegedly took place shortly before 5 a.m. on February 7th. Pierre did not have to enter a plea to the rape charge when he appeared before Magistrate Samuel McKinney. He's next due in court on April 17th. Well, police are searching for the suspects responsible for a stabbing that's left a 22-year-old man in hospital. The incident occurring around 2 this morning. Police say the victim was at a club on Bay Street when he was attacked and stabbed multiple times by a group of men he did not know. The victim was taken to hospital in a private vehicle where his condition is unknown. A viral video of men who appear to be immigration officers assaulting 2 men in a barbershop, leaving the pair shaken and hoping for justice. One of the men telling our news the officers came in like assassins. Bertha McDermott has the story.
The viral video that's made the rounds on social media now has Wilfred Sinatis and Gary Phyllis feeling frightened. The men, who are both barbers at Adams Barbershop, say they started their Saturday like any other. But as Sinatis explains, the ordinary day took a turn for the worse.
Immigration came, but we had already gone outside. They asked us if we had papers. We said yes and showed them our papers.
But after the men left, they returned, and according to Sinatis, that's when things got physical.
When they came, they met us inside and they slapped us. They didn't ask any questions, they just beat us.
Sinatis explains he and others from another Haitian community were bused to the detention center. He said he was released around noon. Now, days after the disturbing incident, which took place right here at Adams Barbershop, Sinatis is saying he's hopeful the video that made the rounds on social media will bring them justice.
What took place, I would say, is a despicable act. They were like assassins. I think anyone who sees a video like this, whether they're Haitian or whatever nationality, once they see the way things were being done, will be disturbed when they see it. The video is a strong point to give us justice.
The shop's owner feels both men were targeted as the officers had no interaction with anyone else in the barbershop. Now she's concerned it will hurt her bottom line.
The video circulating around, and a lot of Haitians saw the video. Hope it don't affect the business.
We reached out to Immigration Minister Keith Bell for comment, but he didn't respond up to news time. Reporting for Our News, I'm Bertha McDermott.
Mostly cloudy skies in the capital today. Meteorologist Greg Thompson has a look at our current conditions. Good evening, Greg.
Thanks, Natalia.
Greg, it's kind of cool outside, and I'm told by my mom it's even cooler in Freeport, so she's all wrapped up today.
Yeah, she's preparing for Valentine's. She is preparing for Valentine's, yeah. It is cool up there. We do have a high-pressure system with some cool air mass across us. That's going to be short-lived, though. We get one more day, and then we out. 70 degrees outside our studio right now, breezy and cool. Your winds are out of the north-northwest at 12 miles per hour, and your feels-like temperature is at 68 degrees. Satellite view, quiet across us. The front boundary that passed through our area early yesterday and towards the early portions of tomorrow is well down near the southeast Bahamas. Most of the activity is well out there in the open Atlantic, but that high pressure brought us some nice cool air mass that would prepare us for the Valentine's Day, but like I said, that's going to be short-lived. Maybe another night of cool air mass, and then we start to warm up by the middle of next week. That's your first check on weather. Stick with us. Look at your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on Our News, road closures this week as regional leaders arrive on New Providence for CARICOM. Plus, who will be on the list of attendees at the major regional event? And later, a luxury resort is dishing up unique training opportunities for some senior high school students. That's all coming up when our news continues. This week's 44th Caribbean Heads of Government meeting is attracting not only regional leaders, but also top officials from across the world. Marlena Leonard has that angle in this report.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, as well as an American delegation, will be flying down for the 44th CARICOM Heads of Government meeting. Minister of Foreign Affairs Fred Mitchell says one of the main draws for international parties is the opportunity to discuss the crisis in Haiti. When asked about concerns that the presence of these North American powerhouses may shift dynamics among regional leaders, the Foreign Affairs Minister says the beauty of the meetings is the fact that leaders can get to understand each other on a personal level.
This is where the heads of government, the people who actually make the decisions, get to meet. And that's the importance to the world leaders who are coming, is to find out face-to-face what is the view of the actual leaders of the country, quite apart from the technical people or the ambassadors or the ministers of foreign affairs. So I don't think the dynamic is going to change, but it makes a difference when you're meeting face-to-face.
Mitchell also explains what he believes is motivating the North American leaders.
None of the developed countries, given the recent experience of their interventions in Port-au-Prince, have the appetite for going in without the support of the CARICOM region. And so many countries have said, well, Haiti is part of CARICOM. What is your view about this? And our view is that this has got to be a Haitian solution. This cannot be imposed on the outside. As painful as it is, it must be a Haitian-led solution.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
Well, since 2021, climate change has been at the forefront of speeches made by Prime Minister Philip Davis and his Barbadian counterpart, Mia Mottley. No doubt when the two come together in a few days with other CARICOM leaders for the 44th Heads of Government meeting, climate change will still be number one on the agenda. Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell, who participated in a CARICOM caucus meeting in Guyana just a few weeks ago, spoke to our news about why that issue remains on the top of the agenda.
The number one foreign policy issue of the Bahamas is climate change. And that's because climate change is existential for the Bahamas. The sea is within 3 feet of 80% of the land in this country. So if the waters rise, then we stand to disappear. And we know that this is not just a theoretical possibility, because islands in the Pacific have in fact disappeared, and they've had to make arrangements for people to migrate to other places. So we'll all become climate refugees.
Meanwhile, Officer in Charge, Traffic Chief Superintendent David Lockhart says the meeting will impact traffic in the downtown area, adding that there will be several road closures and diversions as of 4 p.m. on Thursday.
Frederick Street between Bay Street and Princess Street, Parliament Street between Bay Street and East Hill Street, Shirley Street between East Street and Frederick Street, Blue Hill Road between Dillard Street and Cumberland Street, Dillard Street in the area of Hospital Lane and Blue Hill Road, and George Street between Duke and Bay Street. As a result of those road closures, all traffic traveling north on Blue Hill Road will be diverted west onto Dillard Street. All traffic traveling east on Meaden Street will be diverted south on Hospital Lane.
And traffic traveling west on Shirley Street will be diverted as well. And all local traffic in the affected areas will be diverted to Bay Street to travel east.
Frederick Street, as of 12 o'clock, will now have a northbound flow of traffic rather than a southbound. Market Street will have a northbound flow of traffic rather than southbound. George Street will have a northbound flow. Parliament Street will have a northbound flow. So those persons who would usually travel on those streets traveling south, you will now have to travel north as of 4 o'clock on Thursday.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
When our news comes back from the break, an annual conference spreads a message of positivity with young men.
Plus, coming up in sports for you tonight, B3A is announcing plans for the upcoming B3A's track and field relays. We'll also give you some details as one of our track and field stars does well in the hurdles, and so much more coming up in sports.
And later, students get a unique opportunity to train in hospitality. We'll tell you how when our news returns. This is our news. Welcome back. The Reach Out Youth Organization hosting its annual Boys to Men conference in Grand Bahama. Leader of the youth organization, Dudley Said, encouraging mothers to bring their sons to the conference, all in an effort to steer the next generation of men in the right direction. The annual Boys to Men conference attracting a large number of young men from the Grand Bahama community. The theme, You Are God's Masterpiece, Love Your Selfie. The group had the opportunity to have positive messages from several community leaders. Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture, Mario Boleg, also in attendance, telling the group that they are nation builders.
If you are old enough to make a choice, you are old enough to make a difference.
Leader of the Free National Movement, Michael Pintard, focusing on the theme of the conference.
Love who you see in the mirror. It doesn't matter if you're darker than 1,000 midnights or if you high yellow, if your head soft or it's nappy and picky, you have to love yourself.
Author Andrew Coakley telling his own personal story about not having a father figure growing up. He provided words of encouragement for those who are experiencing the same situation and had this message for fathers.
If you're a father and you are raising your child, then you're doing something that God has instituted. One of the other statements I made in my book was, fathers are a child's first glimpse of God.
Deputy Director of Sports Norris Bain says fathers are needed to solve some of the social ills in the country.
Read the Bible with the boys. Sit at the table and go over their schoolwork with them. Go to school with them. Go to the basketball court. Be the biggest cheerleaders.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Natalia Hall. The local track and field body announcing plans for a major relay event this weekend. Meanwhile, Devon Charlton shines in New York, Devon, and the Chiefs are champs once again. Here's Marcellus Hall with a check on sports.
All right, thanks so much, Natalia. Welcome to our Sports on the Monday, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. Tell you what, this past weekend, a big announcement coming from the local track and field organizing committee as the B3A is saying that they will now host the B3A's relays this coming weekend at the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium. For more details, let's take a look. Well, yesterday, the B3A is announcing plans for its upcoming B3A's relays, which will be held at the Thomas A. Robinson Track and Field Stadium. Now, the event will be held as the B3A now looks to solidify its relay teams moving forward the rest of the year. Those teams will compete at a number of different events, including Carifta, the Olympics and other world-class organizations such as the World Championships, which will take place later on this summer. The B3A's saying now their plan is to get as many events like this as possible get under their belts as they look to qualify these teams early on. Organizer Demetrius Cash talking about what's ahead.
The B3A's relays. It's a relay event designed for clubs and schools to partake in. And what we want to do is just put an environment where we can start moving the stick around the stadium in terms of disciplines like 4x1. This year we have a new relay on our agenda for the Carifta Games. It's the mix.
In other news, this time coming in from track and field once again, as over the weekend, one of our very own top athletes getting it done in the 60-meter hurdles. Devin Charlton blazing through a stacked field to take first place honors here. Charlton has been serving notice that she will definitely be a force to reckon with as the season progresses, in particular heading into the World Championships this year, which will be held in Budapest. Devin winning at the Millrose Games in New York, 7.91 seconds. And of course, congratulations going out to the Kansas City Chiefs. They grounded the Philadelphia Eagles in yesterday's Super Bowl 52. 38-35, a game that went right down to the wire. Controversial call, a holding call, giving the Chiefs an opportunity to kick the game-winning field goal. And once again, Patrick Mahomes leading his team to victory, seemingly from the jaws of defeat after trailing big time at the half. They're able to come back and steal yet another win. And there it is, your check on sports for you here on this Monday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Italia.
Still ahead on our news tonight, a luxury resort on Paradise Island partners with a senior high school for hospitality and vocational training. Plus, Greg is back in the Weather Center with your extended weather forecast when our news continues. Welcome back to our news. We had a nice break from hot temperatures. Well, how long will it last? Greg has your look ahead in the extended weather forecast. Greg?
Yeah, thanks again, Natalia. Welcome back, everybody. Final look at weather. We do have a frontal boundary that's down near the southeast Bahamas. A couple isolated showers with that system, but that system will continue to weaken as it pulls towards the south and east. High pressure behind that is going to continue to give us at least one more day of some pleasant temperatures before we start to see a warm up as that high slides out towards east. Winds have started to fall off, so we had some breezy conditions today, and we are going to continue to see those winds falling off through the remainder of the week. As I mentioned, frontal boundary near the southeast Bahamas falling apart. Nothing happening over here. We have a couple of spotty isolated showers, but all in all, it should be very quiet for us over the next couple of days. If you plan on doing any boating tonight for the northwest and central Bahamas, your winds will be out of the northeast to east at 10 to 15 knots. Sea is running 2 to 4 feet, but up to 7 feet in some northeasterly swell, so we have a caution flag posted for you guys. Low tide was at 7:03 tonight. For the southeast Bahamas, a small craft caution also in effect down there. Northeasterly winds 15 knots, seas 3 to 5 feet near shore, but up to 7 feet in some northeasterly swells. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your extended forecast, very quiet weather for us for the remainder of the week. Temperatures will be in the low to mid 70s and then back up to near the 80-degree mark for Wednesday and into the weekend. We could see another weak frontal boundary approaches by the weekend, and of course, a couple of isolated showers expected with that. That's a look at our weather.
All right. Thanks so much, Greg. Well, a local high school is partnering with a resort to offer technical and vocational training. The initiative seeks to take students out of the regular classroom and place them in a hands-on environment. Our Joshua Williams has the story.
The nation's future hospitality and vocational workers at R. M. Bailey Senior High School now have an opportunity to further their skills. The Ocean Club Resort is partnering with the school to enhance its vocational department. The program seeks to equip students with the necessary tools and skills they need to enter the hospitality workforce. The resort's People and Culture Manager, Alexandria Sims, believes that it is time for a change in the industry.
It's time for the younger persons to step forward and take a stance, and why not start with the younger generation here at RM Bailey and other institutions also. So yes, we are looking to start that and get into the community more.
Belinda Monroe, head of the school's Department of Hospitality, Tourism and Cosmetology, spoke about the importance of vocational education.
You ask them what they want to be. The norm is a lawyer, doctor, teacher, but technical education is very important. And this week we just want to highlight that yes, while you can have those careers, it's also important to have another career, something in the technical field.
We also spoke to some of the students that will take part in the program.
It can help me go towards my goal of being a building contractor, because I want to be able to do everything and have people working under me where I know what I'm doing and I could take control of it. I also take a trade from my father in plumbing.
In the area of cosmetology, I've learned multiple things like time management, how you have to deal with customers and clients, and I learned to be patient.
The Ministry of Education will host a vocational exhibit for all government school students on Friday. Reporting for our news, I'm Joshua Williams.
All right, great story. Thanks, Josh. And with that, we thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.